Hello, travel biz owner. Welcome to my corner of the travel industry, the Strategic Travel Entrepreneur Podcast. If you're ready to have fun, be inspired, get clarity, and take action in your travel business, then you're in the right place. Let's jump in. Hey friends, welcome back to the Strategic Travel Entrepreneur Podcast. My name is Rita M. Perez. I am your hostess with the mostest, and I am so excited because these next couple of episodes are really going to pack a punch to get us through this end of the year. So today we've got if I were your CMO, your Chief Marketing Officer, this is what I would be doing or looking at or measuring within your travel business. Next week, I'm going to come to you with some updates on how my unofficial blocking challenge in November went. And then the last episode of the year is one of my favorites always to record. I feel like it's one of the nosiest episodes, though I am pretty transparent on a lot of things that happen within business and personal with you. But that is what were my biggest wins and my biggest losses of 2025. A lot of that is just to give you just an example of what I'm doing in business, and give you some inspiration on what you can do in your business, and also avoid some of the things that happened to me. So I just wanted to give you a brief rundown of what we've got coming up because there's so much goodness coming at you, including this episode and including a very special opportunity that I wanted to cordially invite you, my besties over on the podcast. If you haven't already heard, I ran the inaugural summer camp at sea this past July, and it is coming back. It's coming back June of 2026. This year, we're going to Alaska, and I cannot wait. I am so stinking excited. Seats are limited. I am limiting this to, I feel 34-ish, 35 advisors or travel business owners. So if you're not an advisor per se, you can still come because this past year we did have some virtual assistants with us as well who were working on their travel businesses. So this is dedicated time to work on your businesses, not in it. So there is a lot of work, but there's also a lot of play that happens at summer camp at sea. I kind of designate each day to a different item within your business. A lot of this stuff has to do with marketing because, if you saw the title of today's episode, I specialize a lot in marketing. And so there is going to be a section to work on your email marketing and clearing out your inbox so that you don't have as many emails in your inbox. There's going to be another day where we focus a lot more on website copy and your CRMs and your task lists and your workflows that might be in there. And then also if you have SOPs or if you don't have SOPs, working on getting those things done. We're also going to have a content day. So really, Summer Camp at Sea in itself is its own content fam because if you didn't know, I am a content queen and I am really great at getting content, especially cruising content, especially content with you in it so that you look amazing and so that you finally have assets that you can use with you in it. So if all of that sounds amazing, because we also still have a marketing day, and this past marketing day we did a lot of recording of reels, but then a lot of people were also scheduling out some of their marketing assets for Q3 and Q4. So if this sounds like your jam, this is not a conference, this is not a learning event, this is a doing event. We are going to get the things done. You've got to head over to the link in the show description to check out everything that Summer Camp at Sea has to offer and to start securing your spot because space is limited and I would love to know who is coming with me by the end of this year. So let me know. Happy to jump on a quick call with you as well. If you have any questions about what the event is or want to get to know me a little bit better, you can jump on a discovery call as well. But let's get into the meat of this episode. And this episode, I feel, is going to be a real juicy one. This CMO, this Chief Marketing Officer audit, is something that I've thought about maybe running either as a coaching program or maybe like as a month-long program, because I don't feel like a week or a day is enough to get some of this information from me. But I'm pretty much going to show you my process of if I was going to be running something like this, how it would work. If you have any interest or you feel very overwhelmed by all the things I'm about to tell you, reach out to me. It doesn't mean that you're committing to anything, but it will tell me, like, should I offer something like this in the future to help out your businesses? It would be a 4-figure investment because of so much that's involved with this type of an audit, but it will give you a really great foundation and roadmap as to the marketing things that you should be doing within your business. So if you're totally stumped, this is going to help you out, and it's going to be totally custom and personalized to you and your business and not generic to everybody's business, which is kind of a lot of what I do because I don't know a lot of your individual businesses, and I would love to get to know you a little bit better. So before we jump into all the things, though, I know a couple of weeks ago, we had an episode that I think many of you loved, episode 227, about the 4 travel agency hats no one tells you about. And one of those hats that I mentioned was this Chief Marketing Officer hat. So if you're like, Rita, give me a refresher onto what this is. The Chief Marketing Officer of your business is really that person that's in charge of all the marketing stuff, but like visibility is what comes under this umbrella. Being creative when it comes to positioning, evaluating like how you're spending for your marketing, financial investments and things like that. They are the person in the company, in the business, that's in charge of getting your business out to the masses or out to the right people so that you have business constantly coming into you. So that's kind of like the umbrella term. Like when I say Chief Marketing Officer, that is what I mean. So when we're going through here, this is kind of like the audit that I would think to do as your own Chief Marketing Officer. So this might be an audit that you might want to conduct for yourself. And if you're like, this is a lot of stuff. Yes, it is. I know sometimes you might think all you need is to like get social media stuff, or it makes me cringe so much, like especially when I look in the Facebook groups and you're like, I just need to hire a social media person, but you don't want to pay that person for their expertise because a lot of what they do are some of the things that are in here. There is so much more that goes to marketing than making a social media post, than just networking, especially if you want to be strategic and intentional. And if you did want to put some ad spend here, making sure that you're spending in the right places as well. It's not just like, being a little aloof and we're going to spend money here and there. No, we're being strategic. We're doing things the right way. We're not doing it willy-nilly. We're not throwing pasta at the wall. We're being a bona fide big business over here, even though I know many of you are small businesses. These are just things that you should be thinking about with that CMO hat on. So, and a lot of these things too, I'm thinking about through the lens that I used to do this work for either travel businesses or small businesses in my local area. So I haven't done this in quite some time. So that's why I question, like, is this something that would be even of interest to you all? Would you want to hire me for something like this? Because we're putting my marketing skills back to use over here. So the first thing that I think about when I'm being hired on for somebody is pretty much we've got to review what we've got at hand. So what is your business? Who do you serve? What do you do exactly? What are the things that people can buy from you? So thinking about like, what are your services? So I know for most of you, your direct service is going to be your travel agency services, your travel planning services. Do you have anything supplementary? Like, do you offer any other extra services? Like maybe you do consultation services, maybe you do like concierge services. Those are little either add-on services or separate offers that you can have within your business that can help boost the revenue of your business too. So I need to know like everything that's generating revenue, because I need to know what I need to market, what I need to get in front of other people's faces. I also need to know what your goals are, and specifically what your revenue goals are, because if I can see that you want to have X amount of money in the bank or X amount of money in sales, and I know that these are the different ways that can get you there based on the things that you're selling, now that gives me a little bit more guidance for like what my marketing messages need to be, what the marketing assets need to be out there. I'm thinking like blog posts, social media posts, where you also need to be in order to get your biggest bang for your buck for the places of visibility that you're going to be showing up. So those are a couple of the like foundational, like we're just getting started, that is what I need to know. What you want to be bringing in, and then also what's going to be driving those sales. I also want to know kind of like a lay of the land in terms of like what your current marketing channels are. Like, what are you doing right now? What might be working, what's not working. Also, what do you like versus what do you like? Because I want to make sure that we're also going at an intersection here, that we're doing the marketing type things that are within your capacity that you like to do or that you want to be present at, but that are also going to give you the most bang for your buck and be in the right places. So you can see like this is a fine science. Even though marketing is very creative, there is a fine science. I'm also going to be doing, and we're going to talk about this in another part of this audit, is that I want to look at where you're spending time at and where your results are coming from, because sometimes those are not the same thing, and the things that you're spending time doing and where you're getting results from. I also want to see like what visibility strategies kind of match the business that you want to be building, because an inspiration from a marketing business call that we had earlier this week, sometimes you're a vendor at certain events, or you attend certain events that you think are going to be fruitful and they flop. And so you have to like look at it from the bigger picture, and also what your goals are, because for this specific situation, the people that attended this event weren't ideal clients, but the vendors at this event were. So thinking about it from that perspective too, because maybe it's that maybe you don't spend time investing at being a vendor at certain events. You just spend time being an attendee, meeting different vendors to build up your little networking black book there too. So you can see like there's different levers to be pulled from all of here. So this first part of my Chief Marketing Officer audit is getting this lay of the land. Then I want to take a look at the market really. And I look at your positioning a bit here. So what is your positioning in the travel market? You can't just say that you're just a travel advisor. What exactly is it that you do as a travel advisor? How clear is that? How differentiated is that? Because in a sea of realtors, there's lots of different types of realtors. So you also have to think about that as a travel advisor, as a travel agency owner. There's lots of people who do what you do, but what makes you different? What makes you special? What makes you special to your people? Those are the things that I need to start bringing out, because those are going to help frame kind of like the marketing plan, the marketing strategy, especially when I'm thinking about 2026. Does the niche that you have still fit with some of the goals that we just mentioned in that first step, in that foundational step? Is it generating you profit? Because you may want to serve this certain niche, but it is not generating you revenue. So what do we need to do to kind of fix that? And like, if I have my marketing hat on, sales does but does not fall into marketing. Sales is something different. If I'm marketing a certain way, but you're not seeing results in that, there's a misalignment somewhere, and it's not typically or technically in the marketing. It could be that you wanted to market to this certain people, but the messaging is not landing because they're the wrong people. So it's kind of like you gotta make an adjustment in there when something like that happens. At this point too is where I would be auditing not only like who your current people are and what your business is. I would also be auditing some of your competitors. So people who do similar things to you. So like if you're a family travel advisor, let me look at what other family travel advisors are doing. What is like really ringing the bell for them and what is falling as a flop for them, so that I can compare and see and get just a better outlook when I'm looking at you and your business. Like, where are some opportunities that maybe you have overlooked on your own? It's also good to kind of see like what the emerging trends are and the market expectations, especially when we're thinking about 2026. I know multi-generational travel is a big trend that is happening. So thinking about that from the family travel perspective, what are things that we can do to like position your business, your travel agency, even better, taking that into consideration and like really using that as leverage. I also want to see like what are some vendor events that are local to you? What are some potential partnerships, other businesses, visibility opportunities that are really in alignment with your brand? Mostly of those are going to be locally, but also there might be other influential type of people that you might be able to leverage their audience, because I love me some OPP, other people's platforms, when it comes to a marketing strategy. So really diving in on the actual market, competitors, and what's out there, pretty much what you can do. From there, I move over to a voice of the customer audit. This is so important, and this is actually one of the first things that I did, like when I went full-time in my business, was to really hear what potential clients might need from me and my services. This is also going to be so much like gold and genius and value when it comes to creating your marketing assets, updating your marketing messages, because you'll be able to use the actual words that they use, because they're not going to call it an FIT. They're going to call it their family trip. They're going to call it their annual retreat, whereas you might call it an FIT. So your marketing can't say FIT. Your marketing has to say the words that they're using. And this is what Voice of the Customer audit has a lot to do about. And this is actually a lot of what I talked about and discussed in my Prep for Wave Week presentation this year. So I'll try and link that down too, so that you can take a look at that. But when I think of Voice of the Customer, I think of one-on-ones. And this can be like with me and you. If you don't have the time for that, this can just be with me and your client, and I just get to know them for like 20-30 minutes. If of interest, you can also do like a larger focus group with like maybe 5 or 10 of your clients all getting together, answering and asking the same types of questions. This can also be going through like some of the testimonials and reviews that you have, looking through some of the DMs and the comments to see like what are maybe some frequently asked questions. What are things that are commonly coming up in the conversations that people are having with you? This could be like with email replies, and also if you're conducting surveys, which I highly recommend that you do. I like to also call them feedback forms, because I know some people with surveys are like, But this is going to give you so much information on like what are their frustrations, what are their desires, what sets you apart. Why did someone decide that they were going to work with you versus going through another travel booking channel? What do they most value about that relationship? What are some of the hesitations or objections that they may have had before booking? What are some of the emotional drivers that they have when it comes to making the different travel decisions? This is such an important part of this type of audit and this type of review, because if you don't know what your people are saying, like how could you possibly know how to market or like adjust your marketing plan? So especially when you're new, you're not going to have this. But what you do have is a amazing, hopefully, collective of family and friends who you can go to ask these types of questions, and go in it with, you're not trying to sell or pitch them. Just come out of it like with pure curiosity, that you're just interested in learning their questions. If you were going to hire me for services, why would you think you would hire me for? What kinds of services would you hire me for? What kinds of trips do you think you need the most help? What types of trips do you think you could do on your own, and why? Like really leading with curiosity and getting to know their brain a little bit. As I mentioned, this is going to be a lot of messaging and copy gold. So that's kind of like my next step in this audit, is now that I know what your clients are saying about you and your process and how it's been working with you, reviewing some of the messages that you have, like going to your website, going to social media bios, going to like any different platforms that you have digitally, and seeing, are the messages that you have in those places congruent with the messages that these people have just told me in this voice of the customer audit? Because if they do not line up, oopsie, we have a big gap. Like that is a sound alarm, because we have a big thing to fix here. Because if your clients are saying one thing, but your website is saying something else, you're not going to be able to attract more of those ideal clients that you want to be able to work with if the words that they're using and their intentions are not also what they see on the website. Because if you're working with amazing clients and you've been stumped as to why your website's not converting, it's because it's not matching up. You're delivering something, but you're not showcasing that on your digital platforms, and those need to be in more alignment. So for this part of the audit, I would definitely audit your website copy and just look at what's going on your website, some of your visuals. I think the most obvious part, especially when I'm thinking about website copy, if you specialize in destination weddings for couples, and you don't do anything in family travel, if I'm seeing a family photo on your website, there's kind of a misalignment there. The same thing, like if I was to say that if I was going to work with a person that specializes in like sports and championship travel versus a luxury traveler versus a solo women traveler, like travel agency, those are all three vastly different images. There might be some cross-section, but they're for the most part vastly different images. You're probably going to talk about those types of travels in different ways. This part, like this messaging and copying, is how people are going to identify that you are the right travel advisor for the right client. They're going to be able to know and understand, like, this person gets me. They know that as a gluten-free traveler, I cannot compromise on gluten meal. Like, I cannot have a gluten meal. They understand what that is. They understand that natural flavor probably means there's gluten somewhere up in there. They know all the nuances for that. That has to be all over your channels. Like, people have to know, okay, they get me. And this is also like across your bios, like when I'm looking at your Instagram, your LinkedIn, if you have any consortia profiles, this all has to be consistent. It has to be the same message in all these different places. Then I'm looking at like your captions and your storytelling style. Like, are you telling stories that are congruent with this or not? What is your tone? Because you can be a fun destination wedding planner, or you can be a sophisticated destination wedding planner. That's going to be two different things. They might both be luxury, but you're going to talk and you're going to present yourself in different ways for those different types of people. This is also going to give me a good look to see, like, is there anything that's outdated? Maybe you've had a consultation offer that you no longer offer. Maybe you used to call yourself the chief travel officer, and now you're just like, I'm a travel agency owner. Like, you wanted to simplify your language. So also looking at the alignment of that, and then taking a look at your competitors' language and seeing like what's the differentiation here and what needs to be more in alignment. Then another part that I would like to conduct at this audit would be your relationship and your nurture. So, and this is something that you can also conduct for yourself. So I'm saying like this is a chief marketing officer audit. But again, you sometimes do wear this hat within your business, so you can conduct this audit on your own. So once we've kind of got like the lay of the land, voice of the customer, then we've done a little bit of like, okay, what's in your messaging? What's in your copy? What are you doing to build and nurture relationships with people? Because those are really great foundational items. But where you're going to have longevity in your business is through relationships. So how are you nurturing followers, subscribers, past clients? Like, how are you keeping them in their world? Also, how are you starting out relationships? So if you are new, or if you're trying to refuel your business, what are you doing to create new relationships? Like, where are those places that you're going? Where are you networking at? Part of this is also like a funnel type audit. So I want to look like at email list, your welcome sequence and things like that to make sure everything is not only in flow, but that it is up to date with 2025, 2026, our current times. Because let's say like you were using a lead magnet for a couple of years, you've updated your copy, your messaging, your language. Maybe what you said when you originally started your business is not how you speak anymore. That's not the place that you come from. So that also has to be updated. This is really me looking at starting to dive in a little bit as to your marketing funnel, your sales pipeline. So how are you moving? I'm diving in a little bit on the marketing matrix too. Like, how are you finding people? How are you meeting people? How are then you connecting to people that helps make them a little bit more of a warm client or warm lead? To how are you converting them to being an inquiry / a paid client? To how are you reconnecting? Because it doesn't end just when the client goes on the trip or when they've booked a trip with you. That relationship needs to keep going, especially if you want to do a little bit less of the meeting and get more of that referral partnership in there. So when we're doing that funnel and the pipeline audit, some of the things that you should really look at are those lead sources. Like, where are you getting most of your leads from? Is this from referrals? Is this from your social media? Is this because you are attending virtual networking weekly sessions and you convert somebody into a lead every single week? I'm not sure, but I hope you know. I hope you know these answers. And also, if you are in different places, which you should be to have that multi-channel marketing approach, what is the data from all this? So if you were at a vendor event, how many inquiries did that bring about? If you decided to do a networking event, how many inquiries? So it's not that you're just doing the actions. You've also got to measure the actions that you're doing to see, are they fruitful? Are they not fruitful? Because why would you go to this weekly networking event that has never produced any results for you? Especially if you've been going 6 months to a year. If it's not produced a result, and because I know like sometimes that does take time, but if you haven't gotten results in that time frame, it might be important to reconsider doing something a little bit different. Because I also, as your chief marketing officer, don't want you to keep like spinning your wheels on doing the one thing and it's not producing results. Reviewing some of what the lead magnets that you have, which ones are converting the best, which ones need to be a little bit retired. Maybe we need to try different types of lead magnets. Maybe you just had like this free guide on your website and we need to be a little bit more aggressive. I'm kind of like putting like paws out because I'm seeing that that's kind of a trend when people are coming out with their marketing trends for 2026, where community and like small groups and small circles is really going to be important when it comes to converting leads into clients. So while a guide may have worked before, it might not work now. And what might be working now is to be having like Zoom webinars and getting to know people in a little bit more intimate setting and really showcasing your value that way. Part of this like funnel client journey audit too is seeing where clients might be dropping off at. So are there like, especially when I'm thinking about welcome sequence, like do you notice a pattern where people might be unsubscribing? Is it after every 4 weeks, maybe after every 4 years? Whatever it might be, like being able to pick up on some of these patterns so that maybe you can also like alleviate or have that keep happening. Reviewing some of these email automations, the welcome sequences, looking also at some of your CRM workflows, because those are marketing touch points, because your client experience is a piece of that marketing touch point for your clients. So how often are you following up? How often are you being consistent with them? That's important to notate. Really like looking at when somebody books an inquiry to when the consultation officially happens to when like they book or they don't book, really reviewing all those steps and processes. Are they easy? Are they simple? Did you map everything out? Did the client still have a lot of follow-up questions after the consultation? Because that could mean like a couple different things. That could mean you didn't explain things very well in your consultation. That could also be they're a little bit in over their heads or they weren't paying attention to all the things that you were saying. This is not just solely on you. And then like, if it is something on the client end, are those the types of clients that you still want to be working with if they have all these questions after you've fully labeled out? Probably not, because it feels like you're going to be ripping your hair out afterwards. Then kind of like after we take a look at the marketing like the funnel and the sales pipeline, really evaluating and updating what your marketing matrix is, what you're going to be doing at the meet, connect, convert, and reconnect areas. So looking at your core marketing channels and deciding we're going to be doing this in 2026. We're going to stop doing this, or this is going to go on a pause because this didn't work for us. I also want to say that something that doesn't work for you anymore doesn't mean it can never work for you. It just might mean like that's not the thing that's working with our current market. Like this 2025 has been a little insane and quite topsy-turvy. So a lot of things that used to work aren't working now. And I'm not saying that they'll never work, but you just might have to like table it and then move it forward in another year, or just wait, or just tweak how you're doing it too. But you have to do this kind of evaluation, because let's say again, like you go to BNI weekly, but you've never gotten any leads. Like, why are you still paying for BNI if you have not gotten any leads? Business Networking International. It does not make sense. So let's stop it and put your money in better investments, which is kind of the next part of the audit, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So really updating your marketing matrix is updating what your core marketing channels are. Like, identifying what the purpose of each channel is, and then also identifying the purpose of maybe different strategies or different tactics of what you're doing at each of these different levels of the meet, connect, convert, and reconnect. And then how often do these channels have to be activated? Because like your converting is hopefully working for you passively, but your meet, you're probably having to be a little bit more active on. And then also making sure that you're tracking those different elements. really making sure that like when you're reevaluating these channels, you know what you should eliminate, you know what you want to be experimenting with, because you've also evaluated what your capacity is, and then you also know what you want to double down on. So when it comes to like your return on investment, looking at your ROI for marketing efforts and your marketing spend, the things that you have to evaluate in this part of the audit is like, well, where are you currently spending money? Is this like virtual digital ads? Is this social media ads? Is this podcast ads? Is this ads in virtual newsletters? Is this print newsletters? Is this like HOA newsletters? Is this different types of magazines? Where are you spending money? And then the measurements of that. So you've been doing this ad for a year and nothing's come in, or you've been doing this ad for a year and you can't hold still. There's so much business that's coming. So what are the things that you have to like make sure that you're investing in, and what are those things that you have to drop? I would say here too, when we're thinking about finances, what are those tools or those software programs, possibly any subscriptions, any memberships, things that you're paying for and evaluating? Is that something that is absolutely necessary, or is that something you're not even using that you can like get rid of? Like a lot of the technology that I use, like if I haven't gotten a lifetime offer on it, I kind of evaluate, do I still need this? And thankfully, I'm not really like bouncing between software as much as like maybe other people are doing, but I feel like I'm also a little bit more discerning in the software. Like I've got my ears perked. And that does come with time. So if you're like, oh, I've tried all these softwares and nothing's working for me. Because when I think of software and marketing software that I personally use, Canva is one of those. I will always, well, knock on wood, I mean, you never know what might come down the pipeline, but Canva is not going anywhere. I use that on a weekly basis. I wouldn't say I use it on a daily basis, but every week I am in there. And the affordability of that just makes it a no-brainer. One of the AI programs that I use, I have a lifetime offer on that, so I'm going to keep using it because it helps me for what I need it for, and I've already paid for it and I have it for life. I do invest in 2 other AIs that I pay $20 each a month, so $40 a month. And there was one that I wasn't using as often and one that I started using even more. So I was like, well, maybe I can drop the other one. But I kind of use them for different things. So that justifies me because I am also in there weekly in those types of things. If I wasn't in there as often, I don't think that they would be such a priority for me. And I think that's a lot of what I think about. Like this year, I have been thinking for the Black Friday promotion to invest in Opus Clip for repurposing some of my horizontal videos into vertical videos. I decided not to invest in that because when I did like a trial run, it felt like to me, like I was still going to be needing to do like a fairly good amount of editing, not like too much editing, but more editing than I thought. So I'm like, is this really something that I need to be spending my money on, even with such a great promotion? Because I'm still going to have to be spending my time utilizing it. So that's kind of how I also think about things when I'm making investments. Here is also where I would put like any contractor. So if you're utilizing like a virtual assistant, social media manager, any sort of like branding designers, graphic designers. Also, like if you wanted to do any sorts of like continuing education when it comes to marketing, any conferences or masterminds, really just taking a look, like what are some, because I think about social media marketing world. I'm not sure that a travel advisor needs to be attending something like that, but hiring a photographer for branding photos or coming to summer camp at sea, plug, might be more worthwhile investments than going to like marketing specific types of conferences, because you're not a marketer, you're a travel agency owner, you're a travel business owner. So it kind of like you have to figure out the things that like are in alignment with you and with what your goals are. So looking at what you're currently paying for, what's what you're using and what you want to keep on using, what you're not using, what might be underperforming, what you're not using enough. Is there anything that is driving leads for you? Well, then make sure that you keep on doing that because clearly it is working for you. Also, like, are you having duplicate tools? So maybe you have, like, you pay for Canva and you pay for Adobe. They kind of do the same type of thing. So do you need to have both of those subscriptions? You might not need to have those, especially if you're not a designer. You probably definitely don't need to have both of those. So really being able to eliminate it. I know many of you have like multiple social media subscriptions. You don't need that many social media subscriptions. So taking a look at like what you need to keep, what can go away. Also, like, courses. Do you need to purchase any more courses or do you not? And then also, like, what's going to be your time spent in courses? This is something that has come to me recently because I think I've kind of teased that I think I will be rebranding Take the Helm on here before. And if I haven't, you're definitely going to find out in the last episode of the year about this. One of the things that I've recently been teetering on is if I should take a course that I really like from somebody that I'm interested in about evaluating these things that I need to evaluate in my business before I officially start the branding process to like make sure my branding's up to date, make sure like give me like a better idea for my visuals and stuff. So I could have done that in a course. Or I recently found out that they also do this like in a 90-minute consultation session. For me, personally, I vote for that 90-minute consultation because I am not in a place where I want to be taking a course right now. That's me personally. You might be a little bit different. So those are also things to evaluate. Like, would you rather learn from a course? Or would you rather have that one-on-one, tell me what I need to do, give me the plan, and I will follow the plan and go from there. But I need you to tell me what the plan is. So figuring out like what are the priorities in your business when it comes to those types of things also. So yeah, these are things when we're looking at all the different finances. Another thing that I think about, similar to the financial part, and when it comes to like being a chief marketing officer, is your brand assets. And this is like, especially when we're thinking about doing this audit, you've also got to audit your visuals. And if you haven't done a photo shoot, or if you haven't like hired anybody to get some B-roll of you in at least a year, it's probably time that you need some fresh assets, because I just hate when I come upon like somebody's website and there's images from 10 years ago, and then you meet the person like virtually or in real life, and I'm like, you look nothing like what I thought you did. And this goes into like the brand alignment and brand congruency. So what are those assets that are on your website or on your different marketing channels? You probably do need some sort of a refresh. And this refresh could be, so like I remember my first agency website was focused on girlfriend getaways, all types. Like I remember I had a ski photo. I don't know anything about ski, but I had a ski photo because I'm like, oh, it's a girlfriend getaway. I can plan that. No. So when I updated my branding, I took off anything that like said ski or like visualize that. So making sure that like this is also in line with what your goals are for 2026. Any photography, any videos, any graphics, any B-roll clips that you have of you or have the types of trips that you want to sell, they all have to match up with what your goals are, and they all have to be consistent across all the platforms. You can't just be like family travel here, luxury travel here. No, it's congruency, unless you have like different brands, and that's a whole other different thing. But making sure that these visuals are up to date, so it also positions you like very professionally. The final part of the audit, I would say, is then also, we've talked a little bit about the financials. It would also be evaluating, okay, we've kind of created a new lay of the land. these are what you've told us your goals are. This is what we have. This is where we need to go. These are the things that need to be updated. As the strategist, I am not the implementer. So we've got to figure out who is making these things happen from the action plan that we've created. So is this you as the travel agency owner? Are you going to be taking over some of these things? Maybe you have to hire a branding designer or a copywriter. Maybe you have to hire a videographer or a photographer. Maybe you have to hire a full-on social media manager, because now that you've seen what the plan is, you've identified that you need to be more out there in the community. So you're not going to have time to dedicate to your social media. So you need to have somebody else taking over your social media. So this is like once we've buttoned up and put that bow on the plan, where are you going to go next? How is that plan going to be implemented? Because it's not enough to just have the plan and be like, okay, this is all we're going to do. You actually have to do it. So hopefully this gives you a good idea of like, if I was the CMO of your brand, what I would do. And then hopefully if this is not something that you're interested in hiring out, you also have a great viewpoint of, if you are going to do this, all the things that you need to have into consideration to creating that marketing plan to really propel you in 2026. Because I think like this is something that isn't widely spoken about doing such an audit. And like really, you can get into the nitty-gritty of a lot of these things, or you can just talk to a lot of people, because talking to a lot of people, you're going to build lots of relationships. But also like thinking back to doing it strategically, intentionally. We're not throwing spaghetti at the wall. So there needs to be a lot more thought and proof and backup when it comes to this, which I think this is why the audit is so, so important to do. And you do still have a couple more weeks to be able to complete this to get you in really tip-top shape for 2026. So let me know what questions that you have when it comes to running an audit like this for yourself, for your business. Let me know, like, would this be of interest if you wanted to hire me for something like this? Would you want me to do all this back end work and I just present you with a pretty plan on a Google Doc for you and you just follow the plan? I'm just super curious at this. So I hope this has been helpful at kind of like doing an audit into your business and especially the marketing assets within your business. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me and I will see you here next week. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for joining me on the podcast today. Remember to check out the show notes for all relevant links and resources from today's show. See you next time.